Welcome back. Senior officials from UN agencies and NGOs representing the Interagency Standing Committee have visited northern Nigeria to assess the humanitarian situation in some states. According to them, the crisis in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states needs renewed support to combat the recent upsurge in violence and growing humanitarian needs.
During the mission, the senior officials visited several camps for internally displaced persons in Maiduguri and some of the towns most affected by the crisis in Borno State, Damboa, Dikwa and Ran. They met with communities affected by the conflict to better understand their needs and how the humanitarian community can support them, particularly women and children, who make up 80% of the people who are internally displaced.
If we don't do more now to help and support these people, what we're going to face in terms of their needs in the coming 5 years will be far greater. So it's now that we have to act, and we have to act with some urgency.
The violence continues to disrupt livelihoods, deepening the impact of chronic vulnerabilities such as food insecurity, malnutrition, and epidemics in affected communities.
What we need the most is food, shelter, health facilities, toilets, and education for our children. That is what we need.
According to the United Nations, 7.1 million people need life-saving assistance across the states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. Nearly 3 million people are facing food insecurity, while malnutrition is threatening the lives of more than 1 million children. Additionally, 40% of camps for internally displaced people are overcrowded due to lack of land to build additional shelters, increasing risk related to disease outbreaks and protection.
All I'm confronted here is human suffering, a situation of cholera and epidemic in the making, and totally unacceptable. You know, it is critical that all efforts are made to negotiate appropriate land for these people. Land where at least they can live with basic standards. So, I mean, I am shocked. I'm in total shock.
The United Nations and its partners have appealed for $848 million to provide life-saving assistance to 6.2 million people in 2019. 6 months into the year, thanks to the generosity of donors, the response plan is 32.6% funded. Significant additional funding is urgently needed to sustain the humanitarian response and avoid an interruption in life-saving services that would further exacerbate the dire situation.
Now, Eritreans living in Italy have held a demonstration in Rome against the Eritrean government after it closed all the health centers run by the Catholic Church. Last month, the government ordered all health facilities run by the Catholic Church to be closed. Then a week ago, the authorities ordered Catholic nuns who were living within the clinic compounds to move out. Sources say that nuns who had been running a hospital in Zaga, a village about 30 kilometers north of the capital, Asmara, were prevented from taking any hospital equipment with them. The hospital provided maternity and general services for villagers in the area. Eritrean Catholic bishops have been calling in their pastoral letters for national reconciliation, political reforms and justice. But the government says in a statement that the closure of the clinics is in line with the 1995 regulation which limits developmental activities of religious bodies. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has announced plans to create 3 million jobs. He made this announcement at the presentation of the 2019-2020 budgets to Parliament, who approved the spending plan. A big chunk of the money for next year will be used on finishing roads and power plants. The hope is that the spending will boost the country's economic growth, which is already among the fastest growing across Africa. The government plans to raise 75% of the total expenditure of $13.4 billion from taxes. Let's take you to Zimbabwe now, where small-scale farmers are returning to the coffee harvesting sector that was all but destroyed under former President Robert Mugabe. Zimbabwe is not among the world's top producers, but its Arabica coffee is prized for its zesty and fruity tones, and the sector once provided livelihood for more than 20,000 poor farmers.
70-year-old David Muganiura is harvesting his coffee crop in eastern Zimbabwe. Muganiura expects to double output and income, a success story that has thrust him at the front line of the revival of the country's struggling coffee sector. A long-time Zimbabwean coffee grower, Muganiura almost gave up on the crop when prices slumped to as low as 20 US cents a pound at the turn of the millennium, and foreign buyers took flight after land seizures drove out more than 120 white commercial coffee farmers under the banner of post-colonial reform.
I am a coffee farmer ever since 1984, and this is my plantation that you can see here. It's a 2-hectare plantation of coffee.
Today, Muganiura is one of 400 smallholder farmers that are returning to grow coffee, which is making its way back to the global market and raising interest among coffee connoisseurs. Companies like Nestle and Nespresso are now willing to pay a premium for Zimbabwe's beans. Therefore, small-scale farmers like Muganiura are returning to a sector that was all but destroyed under former President Robert Mugabe.
The reason for us being here in Zimbabwe is the incredible coffee profiles, something that we really want to offer to our consumers. And being here in Zimbabwe, it's very important for us to work with smallholder farmers as well as with the estates. And what we're hoping to achieve is over time to increase the volume of coffee coming from the initial smallholder farmers that we're working with, and then also to encourage other smallholder farmers to join the program.
Nespresso has teamed up with international non-profit TechnoServe to offer training to small farmers in the growing techniques needed to achieve the high quality it demands. Muganiura, a father of 8, received the training in 2017 and managed to more than triple output from his 2-hectare plot to 700 kilograms last year. This year, he expects to harvest 1.5 tons, a personal best that will earn him more than $10,000.
There is a great impact because of the training already taking place. Many are already attracted, including the sale, the process that we received. Many are joining, and I expect in 3 years down the line, 4,000 farmers will be realized or registered for coffee production in Onda Valley.
The dollar payments have enabled Muganiura to hire labor, install solar power at his homestead, buy farming inputs, pay school fees for some of his grandchildren, and medicine for his diabetic wife, which he struggled to do in the past. This year, he aims to buy a car, a lifelong dream.
So that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shubawale.